Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. I've been wanting to make this video for a few reasons. First of all, it will give you guys an idea of the type of things that I want to focus on in the next few months as it regards my piano journey, as well as the type of content that I want to publish on my channel. Secondly, if you're playing an instrument of any kind, and it doesn't really have to be an instrument either, you might find some inspiration into seeing what other people are focusing on as it regards to their goals and how they think about them, and maybe apply some of those principles into your own plan. Thirdly, I would like to start a conversation on this topic and see what you guys want to achieve in the next few months, and hopefully find some inspiration from that myself. And lastly, this is my way of keeping myself accountable to you guys. So if you don't see me doing these things in the next few months, please do let me know in the comments. However, before I dive into the list of 5 main goals that I've set myself, I'd like to talk to you for a few minutes about the principles that I use for my own goal setting. This is because I think that's extremely important. And this doesn't have to be done in January, it doesn't have to be done in July, it doesn't have to be in December, just do whenever you want to. And I think that it's important for you to have a plan whenever that's made, and then think about restructuring and refining and modifying that every few months based on the things that you've learned, what went well, what didn't go so well. Maybe you want to completely change direction and focus on a different genre, or that type of things. Have you set your goals too high and there's no way that you're going to achieve them? Have you set the bar too low and you can do a lot better than that? Are there any unforeseen circumstances that made you change your goals? All of those things are very important, so don't feel like you have to set something in stone now and then follow that every single day or month, because, well, at least for me, it doesn't work like that. Once you do have a list of things that you might want to achieve, I would recommend you to create a system around that, and I hope this would make sense in the next couple of minutes. What I personally like to do is set myself a priority for the day, or maybe a couple of priorities, and I like to think about this in input versus output goals. An input goal is something that I have to put into it. So I want to practice for an hour or 20 minutes today or 3 hours today. An output goal is something that you want to achieve as a result. So I want to finish this Chopin ballade, I want to finish this Bach minuet or Chopin waltz, or whatever it is you want to achieve. But it doesn't necessarily tell you what you have to do to achieve that, because it might take you 10 hours or it might take you 3 years. You don't really know. So I like to, my main priority for the day is to practice an hour and a half, ideally 2 hours. But if I do an hour and a half at least, I know that I've done mostly what I could have done for the day, and I would feel so much happier about myself. And I know that if I keep doing that every day for a long period, pretty much everything that I want to achieve, I will achieve at some point. If I would do 3 hours a day, I would achieve it much faster. But for me, in order to do 3 hours of practice a day, I would have to sacrifice even more than I'm currently sacrificing, which is not something that I want to do. And in order to stick to these input goals, you have to be very incremental. Don't set yourself a target to work at the piano for 3 hours a day if the most you've practiced before was 10 minutes, or if you're a complete beginner, just make a habit of practicing 15 minutes, then increase to 30, then increase to 1 hour, then increase to an hour and a half, and so on, up until you find a sweet spot, or what I would call a sweet spot, which for me is 2 hours. I would not want to increase, and I would not want to decrease that at this point. And once you did find that, it's so much easier to create a habit out of it and not give up. With time, and this is different for every single one of us, you're going to find out for yourself how much input, how many hours you have to put in to learn a specific piece based on its difficulty. And no one can tell you this, because we're all different. So I'm afraid that your teacher can't help you. But if you practice enough and you do enough pieces, you're going to find out for yourself. And I also want to mention that positivity is extremely important. So, because if you're being negative about something that you missed or didn't achieve, it's more likely that you're going to give up on that goal, and maybe even, unfortunately, stop playing altogether. So try and keep positive, even if you missed a day of practice, even if you did have the time. I have quite a few of those myself, where I have to take a full break, even though I would have had 1 or 2 hours to practice. And I think the important rule here is something that Matt Devella, one of the YouTubers that I follow, calls a 2-day rule. So you can miss 1 day of training or of practice, but don't make it 2 days in a row if you had that opportunity to practice. And as long as you do that, you'll be fine, but don't abuse it too much either. And lastly, if something is going well for you, make sure you keep doing that, or even more increase. So if you've been saturating for 15 minutes every day last year and that's going well for you, keep doing 15 minutes this year, or even increase if you want to improve even more. If something isn't going well, make sure you change that in order to adapt to what didn't go well, and find a plan and find a solution to that problem, and ensure that you're progressing with each month or year. I guess the important thing here is to make sure you constantly analyze what's happening around you and understand what works and what doesn't, and make conscious decisions to improve on everything that you're doing, and don't just let it happen around you passively, because that's not how you're going to progress to the next level if that's what you want to do. Because we all know the saying, if you keep doing what you've been doing, you can't expect better results. Now finally to the list of goals. I'm sorry for taking so long to get here, but I had quite a few points that I wanted to communicate, because I think they're just as important as the goals that you set for yourself, and wanted to hopefully add some value to you guys. The first goal is to continue documenting what I've started so far, and that's my piano journey on YouTube. I think I've done this for about half a year now, maybe just over half a year, and I want to keep doing this, because the best thing I've done so far with it is communicating with you guys and seeing so many comments about people that were inspired, and that's generally the best thing that I could get out of this channel. And I absolutely love doing so as well, and it's something that I can look back to myself and see how much I've improved on days where I feel like I haven't improved at all. Last year I posted about 16 videos or so, 17 in just over half a year, so I want to double that in the following year, so I need to get at least 30 videos. Secondly, I want to continue engaging with you guys, whether it's replying to comments, making videos that you're requesting, and I have a list of those as well. And there's so many other things I could be doing to engage with other people outside of YouTube as well. So for example, last weekend I met up in Cambridge with Brandon Hawksley, and I'm sure everybody has seen his progress video. I'll link it here if you haven't. And we had an awesome day in Cambridge, just talking over a coffee with about piano things. And then we got to play at the same place that I usually do my Cambridge recitals in. And we had a fantastic day, so doing a lot more of that. And I'm sure I'll be playing in a recital with Brandon as well. My second goal is to learn 30 new pieces this year. There's so much music out there, and I need to be doing better at learning more music rather than just focusing on a couple pieces a year. I initially wanted to do the 40-piece challenge, and I was inspired by seeing Felipe's progress. He's learned 63 new pieces last year. Well done, man, that's insane progress. However, it wouldn't be very smart for me to do so, because I'm going from 10 to 40, and we're talking about being incremental in your progress. So I'm going to go down to 30, as I spoke with him as well, and try and get the pieces to about 90-95% quality for the easier, shorter ones. And then obviously 100% of what I could do in my repertoire pieces. I think it's very important you do quantity and quality at the same time, because they're two different skills, and focusing on one only would maybe hurt the other. So I want to be doing both. And also, as a sub goal here, in order to achieve 30 pieces, last year I've done about 400 and some change hours. I need to get at least 500 hours this year, and that's probably just under 2 hours if I was to exclude those days where I will be away from home on holiday, and weekends being away from home as well, and even days where I wouldn't be practicing. So I think 500 is doable if I was to do 2 hours most days. So we'll see how we can get there. And there's so many people that have inspired me to pursue quantity as much as quality in music. First of all, my teacher, who's been playing for 20 plus years and can now just sight read most things outside of the very complex stuff and play a variety of genres. Also, Kate Clark, who's been inspiring me lately, and she's done the 40-piece challenge last year. She's doing grade 7 in terms of abrsm stuff, but she's a tremendous sight reader and picks up a piece very fast. And also Catherine Clark, Catherine, two different people, who's been seeing a lot of very good results while pursuing quantity music. And I believe she's also doing grade 7 or preparing to do grade 7 at some point. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll step down next year, or maybe step up if my sight reading gets very good. I don't know, we'll take it a few months at a time and reassess. Third goal, there's not much to say here, but I need to pass my grade 5 theory exam. I don't like it, I don't like doing theory, I don't want to do theory, but I don't have a choice because I need to pass that exam before I move on to the higher grades in abrsm. So, and hopefully it would help with my playing as well. So I have to do that in the first half of this year. Fourth goal, pass my grade 6 abrsm piano practical exam. Again, there's not much to say here. I want to get distinction. I would never aim for anything less than distinction because that's just how I want to set my target. But we'll see how we get there. There's no more skipping around, which is what I've done in the previous year. I tried to rush to get to grade 5, but now I think I'll be working towards grade 6. And finally, here we are, last goal. And that is to keep doing live piano recitals. This is probably my favorite thing. I was going to say I've done 5 last year, but I've actually checked and I've done 7 recitals, all of them in London and Cambridge, and it's just the best thing. You get to go there, have a deadline to practice a piece, because if you haven't done it by that point, there's no messing around. You get to listen to other people play, you get to connect to other people who share the same passion, you get to listen to other pieces that you might have never heard of. So I was inspired by quite a few people that play different pieces and that I want to play at some point. You get to talk to people, you get to make friends, you get to play in front of others, which is completely different to everything else that I've done, whether it's playing in front of a teacher or even recording yourself. But recording yourself helps a lot. And there's people of all ranges. I've seen people, and props to this one guy who just went on the stage and just played a piece with one hand, and it was just something like that. I wish I can be as confident as that guy. And it goes all the way to diploma, and I've seen Beethoven sonatas and Chopin etudes and ballades, and I've seen everything, Liszt etudes. So please put yourself up for those. I'd like to take this opportunity to talk about my first recital, and the playing was actually not that bad. My worst playing recital was in July, I think, but this was the first one around March time, and my hands, I was so nervous, my hands were shaking so bad and my feet were shaking so bad that I could barely use the pedal. I was talking about this with Brandon last week, and I don't know how I managed to play. I played pretty well, I was happy with it, and it just gave me the confidence to then keep going. And interestingly enough, come my second recital, everything was gone. The nerves inside you are still there, because I think even professional pianists have it every single concert, because it's just something your brain just senses that you put yourself in danger and it's telling you not to do it. And I don't think that's ever going to go away. But my hands were completely steady and my feet were completely steady, and I think I just got over that mental barrier. And I also recorded myself in the meantime and played on public pianos, which the first time I had exactly the same thing, but now I'm completely fine. So I think all of that helped, but it does help, especially if you're doing exams, because you don't want to go to the exams and have like hands shaking and legs like I had in my first exam, but you want to be stable. I don't know how to explain it, but for the first 6 recitals after that, my hands were completely fine, feet were fine. It's just that feeling inside when you go to the piano and like, what piece am I playing? What's the first note? What's the first chord? So yeah, all of that stuff is still there, but I don't have those physical nerves anymore, so I can play fine. It's just doing it every single other month or so. In one way, just getting used to it and practicing it, just like practicing the piano. If you look back at my first, like the progress video, you can see that I could barely play, and now I can still barely play. And it's the same with talking to camera just now. I've never done it before. I'm not a shy person and I don't feel uncomfortable, but I just don't know how to project my tone, and I have to learn that. And the only way that I can learn it is just by doing it over and over and listening to myself and recording myself and just exposing myself to that one thing. So bear with me while I'm learning how to do this talking to a camera stuff. But I hope it's not too terrible. I hope. Also, I've got some more exciting ideas for the future. Through the previous video, I was able to find out that there's a lot of interest in doing some more videos into the learning stages of a repertoire piece especially, so maybe how I get a piece to performance level. And I've got quite a few ideas, so thanks Felipe and Elena for the suggestions. I would definitely do something like that, and if I don't, find me and know me. I already have a few pieces in my head, specifically a Chopin waltz and a nocturne. No etudes this year, I'm afraid. Fun fact, I recorded something like this video last weekend, but then because I was using the front camera and natural light, the quality of the video got so bad towards the middle that I just decided to re-record it and rethink the idea, and I'm glad because I came up with the new things as well. Although I turned on the lights at the end, so it was a whole mess. Let's pause here for a second. I'm so happy that I had to re-record this because I've come up with so many new ideas since the previous weekend. However, it means I have to do a lot more editing, and it takes a lot longer than I thought to put everything together, and I'd like a coffee. So let's go grab a coffee. Can I have a latte, please?
Drink in.
I'd like to mention and keep myself accountable on camera that in the next decade or so, I would love to do a piano concerto. Particularly, I'm considering now the Schumann piano concerto in A minor, just because it's one of my favorite. So I would quickly like to cover one question that Scott asked in the previous video, which is how do you decide when to begin with abrsm exams, and is there such a thing as a kindergarten exam? So Scott, there is such a thing as a kindergarten exam because 3 people took it before my grade 5. It's called performance exam, and it's an exam where you don't have to pass or fail, you just have to go in and you get feedback on your performance. And I think it's meant to help with your performance anxiety, because you can't fail, you just go in and you get feedback when you're playing. However, I would recommend that you buy the grade 1 book regardless, and look through the pieces, listen to a few recordings, and start working on a piece for a few weeks, the one that you like the most. If it feels too hard and within a couple of weeks or 3 or a month at most you can't play the piece, maybe think about doing the performance first and then improve on your exam stuff. If the piece seems too easy, try and think about doing grade 2. That's what I did. I started at grade 2 and decided it was too easy a few weeks into it, and then did grade 3. But I was already a few months into playing the piano. As well as that, most of the principles that I've talked about in this video apply to you as well, regardless of the complexity of the pieces. Is the same skill that you're trying to develop and how you think about structuring your practice, I guess. So, and I will try and make a separate video on that to talk into more depth about this. But great question, and let me know in the comments if there's anything that you'd like me to answer. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, I really hope I was able to bring you some value, and please do remember that if you're learning anything that's worthwhile, it's going to take time, is going to challenge you because you're actually learning something, and try and maintain a positive mindset. If you're doing everything that you can, it's going to work out for you in the end, even though it doesn't feel like it at times. That is it for this video. I look forward to seeing what you guys want to achieve in 2020 and how do you go about achieving your goals. Please do let me know in the comments, and I hope to see you soon.